I am Mary Rachel Gardner. I am the founder of the Independent Cinema Showcase. This has been my baby in the works for about 5 years, actually. I started with premiering some of my own short films, studied film, business, and acting at USC. And since I graduated, I really was just kind of experimenting with comedy videos, trying viral releases, and just independently curating content with friends and local filmmakers in Los Angeles. And I was playing like really, I mostly produced short films at first, and I'm now working on my way to feature films and television content. People through word of mouth were kind of asking me, when's the next one? And I was like, oh, actually, yeah, I know a lot of other friends of mine that are creating their own independent content and films. So why not put together a short block of films? And I ended up reaching out to local venues and really just researching to see what it would cost and what really the logistics would look like to operate a premiere or a screening to release a film. And through that journey, I ended up finding some really great independent venues that supported my vision and worked with me on some fair prices. Just like See Alive, this platform, it's going to be available for any human being that just wants to connect. You can host movie nights, you can showcase your businesses, anything really here. So thank you so much for this opportunity to share our vision as a cinema family. Here, I'm going to push our sponsors so you guys can also take a look of the current family that we have of sponsors. But yeah, Khaleesi Zouid Productions, the top left logo, that's me, that's my film company. It's the founding sponsor of the showcase. I also too have been donating a lot of my own time and services, production, creative directing, and obviously hosting. I do it purely from my heart. I enjoy it. I'm, like I said, an independent filmmaker myself. I know what it's like when you're first starting out and you've got these great stories and you want to share them, but you're not sure where to go or where to start. We're competing, obviously, with a very high caliber. There's an excellent industry of amazing artists and people that have, I know, worked very hard. Your film that you shared with us was Mother's Day.
Yeah.
And you were the director on that.
Yes.
And Mother's Day was a popular one, by the way. Just so you know, the audience coming out of that, everybody was like trying to find that director. I was like, he's the one that's not here. And that was about a shy 12-year-old boy who befriends two neighborhood brothers who lead him on a quest to make pancakes. Tell us a little bit about your involvement with the project and what your vision was behind that film.
Yeah, so it's been a while, so I hope I remember a lot of it, but Mother's Day was actually my thesis film back when I was studying at York, actually, in film school. So that was kind of like my graduating film, if you want to call it that. But I was involved purely as a director. So back when I was in film school, I had a writer, her name was Claire, who was the writer on Mother's Day. And we were looking for a way to make a film about kids, but had a really important message. So Claire was, at the time, working on this script called Mother's Day. And it was about these kids or this main character called Abner and how he looked at death and the passing of his mom in different ways. So I was really intrigued by that script and how it showed a different perspective that we really didn't see before, and like in the maturity of kids and how kids grow up without a parent or a loved one that would be close in their life. So it started off as a graduation, kind of like my thesis film. And from there, it kind of grew. So we put together a cast and crew, all of which were part of our film school. And then after we all graduated, we continued to work on the film, kind of perfect it. And we started to submit it to festivals. And once we started to submit to a couple of festivals, it just got picked up and it started playing around the world.
That's amazing.
So I think one of the reasons I was really intrigued by that story from day one was because of the the tone and kind of like the vibe and the mood of it. And that's what I kind of wanted to push, kind of this kind of home felt family vibe, and kind of point to not just kids, but in general, kind of what do we leave behind, and kind of what are the gifts that, you know, when people pass away, what are the gifts that they leave behind, and how do we kind of carry that to the world?
Yeah, we're, you know, excited about this new platform. You know, speaking of family, that's our whole brand. We really do genuinely want to support you guys outside the events as much as it is about the event. You know, we do all crave that screening and that live audience experience and networking, and, you know, hopefully get that opportunity to continue to expand your network and grow as a professional in this industry. Yeah, with this all this virtual stuff and all the movement online, it's happening fast, but, you know, we're just kind of here to like be a part of it, learn with it. What was the toughest part during the writing process in terms of editing the story? Especially from a director standpoint. Yeah.
Yes. So in that part, it was unique in the sense that we were working in a film school. So we had a mentor, kind of like our professor, who would help us edit the story. But from my perspective, the hardest part was cutting scenes that had the tone in it, had the tone of Mother's Day, but didn't add anything to the story. And that was a struggle. There was a couple, I think there was 2 scenes that I was really in love with, and I can't remember them. But at the writing stage, we cut 2 of those scenes that had a bunch of comedic moments and beats in them with the 3 main characters, but it didn't necessarily serve the story. So for me, it was just mainly cutting out a lot of the fat. And I think in the editing side of it, we also cut out a couple more scenes. And the original script was, I think it was around 15, 16 pages. So in the end, we got it around to 12, I believe, 11, 12. But the hardest part was cutting things that I would love in terms of like tone and moments.
You are always welcome back here. That's our motto. You know, it's great. Like, I always think of like that distant uncle or cousin, you know, that's like, hey, you're welcome back, you know. And if we can, you know, continue to showcase you, you know, that's what we're here for. Jason Cortez is a Latino filmmaker from Virginia who's been directing and writing short films for the past 5 years. He's worked on various other short films, directed his own, and has gone on has been to numerous festivals around the country. Are you working on anything right now? Or, I mean, obviously not shooting, but
yeah, no one can shoot anything. No one can shoot anything without a face mask. So no, I'm writing with a friend of mine. We're writing a whole television series from ground zero. We've been writing this for like a few years now. So that's kind of been going on. We've just been laying down all the groundwork, all the outlines, character outlines, plot outlines, episode outlines, how we're going to structure, just like all the bare bones.
You know, the Oscars, they have they accept short films now. It's like a short list of 10. I think Olivia Wilde, she was interviewed because she's starting to now direct short films. And she said it's, you know, really hard. It's a difficult form of the cinematic art that it's like if you could tell a story, but like in a very little amount of time.
You can't stretch it. Everything is just really compacted into such a short amount of time, and having to make it, you know, having to have the quality of a feature film within a span of like 5 minutes, and to tell a full-fledged story from A to B, you know, it is very tricky. That's why I really enjoy doing it, because there's so many ways to do. There's way too many ways to do the right thing, or too many ways to do the wrong thing, and then the story, and it's so many variables. It's such a wild experience. It's that new wave that people are trying to do now, you know. And
things used to be more closed off.
Yeah.
And now there's more openings. Yeah, there's more, even if it's just like a little window. That's
or like a TikTok video, like you could just do anything at this point. It's just it's all short form content.
Yeah,
and people love it.
And there's a platform, there's a place for everybody.
Yeah, there's a huge market for it.
Since Jason, you were there, if you want to reminisce a little bit, maybe share with Alexander. Maybe what was so special or cool, unique, whatever you took away from our event.
Yeah, it felt very very close. Like it felt like you were in another class or like in with other groups of friends you weren't necessarily friends with yet. So it was very close knit and very, very run to feel like a festival and just very fun. And hello, welcome.
Yes,
And so it was very
Yes.
cool. It was very fun. Oh, there we are. Wow.
Hi, everybody.
Yes. So it was a lot of fun, and it was very much worth the trip to go because it was really cool to see my film in an actual theater.
Can hear you.
So it was pretty great.
We also opened up on Film Freeway. We're going to accept short screenplays now as well.
Oh, nice.
And we wanted to kind of, with this now being an available platform, we have a lot of volunteers that are actors and also writers. And I was just thinking too, like, how can I, because obviously it's like, we want to be able to share it on a big screen in front of people, but how else can we support people during the development phase? And I know that myself as a filmmaker and how important it is to finally hear your script out loud. And so we were thinking of maybe selecting some top 3, screenplays and do like a table read and do like a virtual table read. And luckily See Alive here, they're considered a sponsor right now at this point because we honestly, like, again, couldn't be doing this without them. And they're part of our family now. And it's all like streaming based now. And, by us utilizing what I imagine now, real estate is in the clouds. Like air space is now valuable.
Yeah.
And, this is costing them to like host us here, but they're, waiving it for us because they want to support the arts. And I wanted to share some articles. The biggest one that like, I feel like we all can kind of somewhat chuckle at and relate to, but the future that Hollywood feared is happening now. First off, like Hollywood, some of old Hollywood has finally been cracked and exposed, and I think for a good reason. It's a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my idols was Judy Garland, Lucille Ball.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really talk about Lucille Ball and her, like she managed her own company. Like she pretty much was like the CEO and the boss of all that and like kind of ran the studios around. But that was unheard of then back in the day for a woman to be in charge. And they were always kind of stamping, like revealing those type of, qualities about women in the industry. And then Judy Garland, of course, and Marilyn Monroe, they were all suffering from what Harvey Weinstein stuff has been shared. And, that stuff's been going on forever.
It's a very interesting time for the industry to not show their films in a theater. And a lot of people, it seems that they're looking to just go straight to streaming at this point. Like, I don't know what the film festival market's going to look like. Oh.
Hi, Amber.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome to the stage.
Thanks for inviting me in the stage.
Of course. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, living in Hamilton, near Toronto, and I'm pretty new in Canada. So
nice.
I'm actually originally from Mongolia, and I'm just checking out the CYA live events, and I find it very amazing, actually.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah, See You Live. Let's talk about that platform right now. I'm going to really just spotlight them because this is going to be like the future. They've partnered with IMAX and Paramount Pictures. So all the studios are now starting to like do this live streaming stuff where they play a movie and they can invite the director or the writer and they talk about it. Yeah,
probably in the future when you play in movies, you can, when you finish watching the movie, you can have some small QA session with your fans and ask discuss about the movie would be great.
I mean, obviously I want to keep it globally connected, but I was thinking like now with this online venue, we can still include people from other countries or wherever you are from home. You can still support us and give back to the arts, which is why we're here and what we're doing. Um,
I think you've kind of achieved that just seeing the lineup of films from last year's event from all over the world. I didn't really expect that. I was like from China, Thailand, Italy, France, and here, Canada. So it really already is a bit of a global brand, as seeing the melting pot of art that we get to watch is really cool.
What was your childhood dream, and how much has it changed from today? Well, first, it was a singer. I thought I was going to be more of like a singer, but I grew up on the stage. I'm a thespian at heart, so I've always craved performing and just entertaining. I come from a family of clowns, a bunch of goofballs, so I love comedy. Laughter's medicine. I think it's healing, and I also grew up, my yaya was a dancer, so I think I've been heavily influenced by the arts always since I was young.
My dream when I was a kid was to be an actress, and I ended up performing for like a big portion of my life, but I always also wrote my own things, and I liked languages, so actually all of these things combined into one. And I became a screenwriter who can write in like 3 languages. And so my point of view hasn't really changed that much. But I gotta say, it's really hard to try to make it into the art world, because it's not just the movie business, it's everything that has to do with the arts. It's just impossible. It's a really hard living. And that's when knowing languages comes in handy, because now I can do things even when the film industry doesn't let me, which is really sad. But it's lo que hay.
I had a lot of dreams when I was young. I think I started off wanting to become a pilot, actually, or an astronaut. I didn't know there was a difference at the time between both. I was fascinated with the idea of just like traveling or like flying and having adventures, which funny enough kind of translated into directing now. But I went from dreaming of being a pilot to an astronaut to a photographer. I was really big into creating images. And then that translated into being a cinematographer. And then when I was in film school, even my dreams kept on changing. Like I went from cinematography to photography, and then it kind of all led this kind of sense of adventure went into directing, and I think that's where I ended up. But it was always this sense of exploring, creating worlds is what really fascinated me. And that's kind of, I guess, where I got my childhood dream of being a pilot or an astronaut from. But I still love to be a pilot now. I can always take lessons on the side. So.
Oh yeah.
If you have good sight, they say
yes,
you need to have good sight.
Yes.
Excellent sight.
So no one said I'm going to make a good pilot, but I can always learn. But yeah, it was that extensive exploration, and I think also when I was younger, I wanted to become like a doctor. But I couldn't stand the sight of blood, so that dream got shut down pretty fast.
That might be a deal breaker. Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. But yeah, those are kind of like, I had many childhood dreams, so there's not just one you'd say, I guess.
I do remember I wanted to be a comedian for like a long time as a kid, and then I realized it wasn't funny, so I just like kind of gave up like really fast. So I was just like, this is hard. This isn't fun, because I would watch a lot of Jim Carrey, and I was like he was like my hero growing up. Like watching his movies like taught me how to move my eyebrows, like how to move back and forth. And so like I spent like 2 weeks trying to move like my left eyebrow a lot until I developed like all the muscle memory to actually do it.
That's cool.
And then I was just like, wait, I'm not funny. I shouldn't, like, what am I doing? But it kind of, it just kind of translated into me realizing that I needed to do a thing that was very performance and anything to express what I'm feeling without actually saying it through a proper sentence and really through images or through a story. Because I'm just like, I'm not really good at like articulating. I'd rather just like show the image and just like have the message be out there. Because I'm just like, explaining it to you is boring, because then I feel like you have to charge me by the hour. It's like therapy. So I was just like, let's just make a film instead. And I've always found it way more helpful in terms of like having either to do music or film or photography. Because I do all three now.
30% of all the proceeds we raise from this event and pretty much any event we have this year is going to go towards COVID-19 research. And probably a nonprofit right now. We're looking at the Red Cross because they're doing amazing things to directly help and support the families that have been affected by this. So thank you everyone who's been donating.
Yes, that's great.
Yeah, so streaming is definitely going to be an option. I'm really sharing this too is to hopefully keep the optimism out there for the independent artists, because I know I've had some friends who are really discouraged and a bit in the dumps right now and kind of not motivated to create, but I'm trying to like remind them that, hey, but you want to be the prepared artist now more than ever, because we have a chance to like really get through. And the streaming platforms need content. Everything that's up right now is already becoming stale because everybody's been binge watching.
Yeah.
And they're also talking about, I've been lucky to have a couple mentors that are showrunners and working in the industry now that are, saying they're looking for stuff that can be quickly shot too. Have you ever watched one of your films and then asked yourself, oh, why did I shoot that? Or why did I shoot the scene that way?
100%.
Oh,
or I should have would have done this.
If I had a penny, oh my God. Every time, like every single scene that I have ever shot, I was like, should have done it differently. But I think that's good, because you should always want to do better, because that's the key to being a great director, because you always have to think that you're not there yet.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm always like, why did I write this? Every time I look back, I'm just like, why did we do this? And I just kind of look at my crew. I'm like, why are we doing this? Why isn't this a musical? I think that's the question I always ask the crew. Why isn't this film a musical?
How does genre affect audience? For example, to make a touching movie with an awesome message, would you prefer to make it as a documentary or a drama? It's very interesting.
I want to say, I don't know, I'm just going first. Sorry, guys. This is the first thing that came to mind. I think since we have this long tradition in Italy of doing things our own way, we just usually talk about serious things and serious matters through comedy. And I think that's the fastest way to get to your audience. Like, cause you get all kinds of people who just looking at the screen and they're having fun because that person just made a joke, and then they just stop and stare and just keep silence for like 2 minutes because they're taking in what they're actually saying, which was a joke, but it's disguised because it's actually the truth being told you through the language of comedy, which is it's a very fast way to get to people. And
I agree with you. Comedy is a powerful, like I was saying, laughter is healing in ways. And but if you could really tackle comedy, I think you can tackle any genre. Genre. And I agree. I think a great way to connect and make an impact with a group is to maybe shock them or dramatize something so that they can really understand.
I would say that almost the same thing. I would say it depends on the story, at least for me, in terms of what's the best way to get your story across. So for certain subjects, maybe a documentary might be a better way to get it across, because you're able to explore real life subjects and do different things in a documentary. But that's not to say that you can't do the same subject in a drama. I think it really comes down to is what you're trying to say and what's the best method of saying it.
I completely agree with the last two opinions. For me, I would always prefer to make it into a drama, just because I feel like I have the leeway to twist some of the characters or some of the story and all the dialogue. With the documentary, I've only ever shot one, and that was really cool to do, but I always find myself having to hope for something to happen, or to learn something on camera, or hope we catch it on camera for it to like have this kind of magic moment. And with a dramatization or just a fictional film, using that similar story, I can create that kind of magic moment, or that moment that I hope that would happen. And so I would always prefer to just fictionalize it just a little bit, just to add some more movie magic, I guess, to the whole story.
Well, you guys are very, very talented filmmakers and storytellers. Obviously, that's why you're here with us, and you're part of the cinema family. And you're always welcome back. Thank you for joining me. This was a great experiment.
Thank you.
Yeah, this was super fun. Curtis is my magician when it comes to post-production. He's an amazing sound, audio editor, and sound designer, really, when it comes down to it, because he fixes a lot of things that come up when you're shooting films. We have Amber, who's with us in the room, and she's been asking about the process of filmmaking, and she was asking like how long it takes to make one film. And, you know, if you're gonna do the film well, that I think dictates my answer.
You know what? If I just go down a list of films I've worked on recently, and these are all in post, these are just my portion of it, just in sound. I just recently did about an 80-minute drama feature. That took like, I think 3 months. I did a horror film before that took a year. And then I did a short film that took about 7 months. I've worked on a feature that took a week to finish, and I've worked on a feature that took 7 years to finish.
The Break Time series you edited, we had those crickets.
Well, you get to choose your own experience.
I don't know how you got rid of them.
So, as I was saying, this place is so toxic.
I know that was like the one, like bigger obstacles we had, and why post took a little bit longer was because of the sound. There's more than one hat too. You're lucky if you have an editor that like kind of does it all, but that's rare nowadays. I mean, it's funny, Curtis. I've had a lot of editors that are like, "Do you have a sound editor? Do you have a sound guy?" Because they're like, I could do the audio, I could, but they're like not as confident. Like it's just when it comes to the polishing of the music or the sound.
I've done this for a while, but at the same time, you give me something, you know, like if I get something terrible to work on, I can only do so much. But if I get something good, I can make it better, and that's usually like the mark of something good. You know, like when we did like Alleys or Break Time, the story and, you know, the acting and all that kind of stuff, that was already there. I just helped fix the stuff that needed a little more love. That's really what it was. That's why I do everything post sound, and even that is considered like, you know, sort of a jack of all trades thing. Normally you do have, like, I've met people who were, you know, like amazing at doing the final mix, but you tell them like, oh, well, we need to mix this this additional line in that someone who ADR'd it or queued it up. They're like, I don't know how to do that.
Curtis has edited for me on multiple projects, and I in my head have come to you, I think, with like just the fear already there of like, this is not salvageable. We're screwed. And like, you're just that magician that you're like, well, let me, all right. I mean, yes, now I see. You're like, I very clearly now know what the problem is, but you magically solve it. And I've really valued my experience with post-production, having worked with an editor like you, a sound genius, really. And so I'm very grateful that you're within my network as an amazing sound editor.